A very good morning to all the viewers of News9. You're watching News9 with me, Sakshi Singh Litoria. It's time to bring you the top international headlines of the day in this edition of Global Lens. Let's take a look. After Sheikh Hasina, trouble mounts on her son after a Bangladeshi tribunal has now issued an arrest warrant against ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son, Sajib Wajed Joy, a month after sentencing Hasina to death for crimes against humanity. 54-year-old Joy, an ICT expert and former advisor to his mother, now resides in the US. An identical warrant was also issued against former junior ICT minister Junaid Ahmed Palak, who is already in jail. The charges stem from the violent crackdown on the July uprising, a student-led protest brutally suppressed under Hasina's regime. Joy faces additional charges for allegedly shutting down the internet during Bangladesh's July 2024 student protests. The ITC, led by Justice Gholam Mortaza, along with Justices Mohammad Shafiul Alam Mahmood and Mohammad Mohitul Haq Inam Chaudhry, also considered allegations against Junaid Ahmed Palak. Separately, both Hasina and Joy are accused in 3 cases over irregular plot allocations in Dhaka's Purbachal New Town project, exposing alleged corruption in the city urban planning agency. In Bangladesh, Gen Zs who removed Sheikh Hasina from power have now started a new party. But winning votes is not very easy for them. Their National Citizen Party is very young and it does not have the big networks or money that older parties do have, especially with the elections coming very soon in the month of February 2026. Let's take a look at this report explaining you more about it.
Bangladesh is gearing up for a national parliamentary election. That follows the massive student-led uprising in July last year, which ousted longtime Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who fled to India. The upheaval led to the formation of a new political party in February, known as the National Citizens Party. It promised to end decades of family rule politics and break the grip of the 2 big parties, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party and the now banned Awami League, once led by Hasina. But as elections get closer, the new party is finding it hard to turn street protests into real votes. Nahid Islam is the chief of the NCP.
We are a new political party and did not have sufficient time to organize or reach out to the wider public. This election will therefore be a significant challenge for us. We also lack prior experience in contesting national polls. Even so, we are determined to take on the challenge. We want to connect with voters through this election and demonstrate our capabilities publicly. Bangladesh needs these polls to restore stability, which is why we are hoping for a proper and neutral election going forward.
Opinion polls by the International Republican Institute put the NCP in 3rd place, with support of just 6%. That's far behind the BNP, which leads with 30%. Even the hardline Jamaat-e-Islami Party is projected to do better, with polls putting it 2nd on 26%. In September, the NCP also failed to win a single seat in student body elections at Dhaka University, the very place where the uprising began. One student from the university said Bangladesh had drifted away from the spirit of July 2024. She said leaders of the uprising no longer listened to ordinary students and seemed out of reach. With a thin organization and little funding, the NCP said it was holding talks with rival parties. Dhaka University professor Asif Shahan calls that a strategic gamble.
They can go with either of the 2 big parties, be it BNP or Jamaat, and may secure some seats and may get a place in the parliament. But that means they have to compromise on their basic principles, the spirit of July uprising, either sacrificing reform or either sacrificing the principles of inclusivity and finding a place for citizens and their rights. If they try to do that, they may win in the short run to get a place in the parliament, but eventually they may disappear from the political space altogether.
Despite everything, some young people still favor the party. Tasnim Jara, a senior leader of the NCP, said the party wasn't about to give up.
But the more important challenge we are facing is staying true to our values, because the system around us is still very much influenced by money, muscle, and patronage. We must not allow the system to change us. We must change the system, and that's what we are here to do.
Now, amid escalating questions about United States' counter-drug offensive, its military has struck another boat. The US military has carried out another lethal strike on a suspected drug trafficking vessel in the Eastern Pacific, killing at least 4 people. US Southern Command says the operation, part of Operation Southern Spear, targeted a boat operated by what it calls a designated terrorist organization. According to the command's statement, intelligence indicated the vessel was carrying illicit narcotics along a known trafficking route. This latest operation comes as the Pentagon faces growing bipartisan criticism over a separate September strike, an incident in which follow-up fire killed surviving crew members. The case has now prompted the most significant congressional scrutiny of the campaign so far. So far, at least 87 people have now been killed in 23 strikes targeting suspected drug boats under the Southern Spear Initiative, a campaign legal experts say may violate international law. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has suggested the campaign could expand beyond maritime targets, saying the US military is preparing to strike alleged trafficker sites inside Venezuela, quote-unquote, very soon. Top law enforcement officials in Cuba said on Thursday the island was prioritizing the fight against narcotics trafficking in the Caribbean and continued to provide information to the U.S. Coast Guard amid escalating tensions and surging U.S. military presence in the region.
Top law enforcement officials in Cuba said on Thursday that the island was prioritizing the fight against narcotics trafficking in the Caribbean amid escalating tensions and surging U.S. military presence in the region. Colonel Ibe Carballo, chief of Cuba's border guard, said the island routinely provides the U.S. Coast Guard with intelligence, even though formal engagement between the two countries ended under U.S. President Donald Trump's second administration.
Cuba is not a black hole, as they often say in other meetings with other countries that do not maintain and sustain a professional exchange. Like the one between the border guard troops and the Ministry of the Interior of Cuba.
Between 1990 and November 30th, 2025, Carballo said Cuba had provided more than 1,500 tips and intelligence on drug traffickers to the U.S. Coast Guard. He said that's proof of the island's long-standing commitment to fighting the drug trade. Cuba sits directly along a key route between major drug producers in South America and top consumer, the United States. As recently as 2016, the U.S. State Department said Cuba is, quote, not a major consumer, producer, or transit point of illicit narcotics. The Trump administration has launched an offensive on alleged drug trafficking boats elsewhere in the Caribbean and Pacific Ocean in recent months. Dozens have been killed through targeted missile strikes, and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, a key Cuba ally, has been accused of profiting from the drug trade. Cuba has criticized those attacks and accuses the U.S. of seeking a violent overthrow of the Venezuelan government. Carballo told Reuters that Cuban security forces had not noticed a dramatic change in drug-running activity around Cuba, despite the surging U.S. military activity and strikes.